Now today's topic that we are going to talk, or I'm going to talk, is on the beauty and the benefit of fears. So it looks fancy, but I don't know what I have to share. And I'm just reading some articles, and especially point of view of scientific findings. And very interesting. And I was very, impressed with the scientific. It's all about brain. Brain is the one who has all this creating these fears or whatever them. And so fear, actually, it's a chain of reaction in the brain that starts with the stressful stimulus and ends with the releasing of chemical that cause a racing heart, fast breathing, and energizing muscles. And also it's an emotional response, and the scientists say it's a biological, physical response for fear and danger in future. And also they accept it's not happening right now. It's a future. And then, of course, they have many steps. And I just want to share you, and I'm never aware about those. When I think about the fears, and some people, and another term, this phobia? Phobias, yes. So I'm trying to figure out how many phobia we have. It's endless. List goes endless. So I'm like, I've copied this. Some of them are really nonsense. I may not experience that drive. So for me, it's doesn't sense. Like fear of garlic, maybe because of allergy. So I cannot fear of onion. When I hear the fear of this onion, I'll just enjoy the smell of this delicious oil. The onion, the French soup that I have in the DC recently. It's so good. But here it has become fear. Somebody has become fear of garlic. So, and fear of dust, fear of walking. That's, I'm just reading some of these funny things. And it's not funny, of course, it happens. Then fear of flute. I love playing flutes. I know how to play flute. But fear of flutes, flute is a F-L-U-T-E. So flute, it definitely means a playing instrument, right? So that's also part of problem here. And then fear of gold. Does any female have fear of gold? No, definitely. But here, this. So what I'm trying to say, they have endless of fears, especially the object. All this. Even I couldn't imagine that how this comes. But human mind is so complex. In Buddhism, that's why we have a different variety of teachings, different variety of antidotes. And this clearly shows that absolutely human mind is so complex, and no one can tell that this has a no point fear. If in wider, if we go in deeper sense, every object could become an object of fear. I may get fear of my cup. If I throw up and it's hit on my head, and I may get head injury and I die instantly, So who knows? It's like so scary. Everything become over fear. I maybe did my table. If the cut hang here and then fall down, I may die also instantly. So it also shows now. When I say this, it also shows that it's all mental creation and mental projections. And Buddha says all our sufferings and fears come from our mind. And mind is the one who projects everything. Basically, fear and it's a fear. And when I say the beauty and the benefit of fear, we need to define the fear. Actually, what is a fear? Of course, scientifically, this is emotional response or blah, blah, blah. But in Tibetan, it's an illusion. Absolutely deluded mind, which created, and some point they have some benefit, but it's more on negative side. I'm speaking in the point of general people. general people, and also, and everybody, all of us know that if we think carefully, this is the main point of our survival. Today we are alive here, we are healthy, we are enjoying this moment here because of fear. Does it make sense? Without fear, none of us will be survive here. We may walk without fear, and then somebody knock down, car knock down, and when we do our birth, at time of birth, if our mothers and caretakers and doctors don't have fear of dying, they may throw us here and there, then we will die, definitely. So fear protects us, that somebody's life is in danger, so we should protect him, care him, give injection. So they give an immunization, doctor, fear of getting infected, different diseases and virus in our life, they give injection in, so that protect us. So it's actually, fear is a protection, psychological protection for us. Very fundamental, necessary for human survival. And it's very necessary. Without fear, then I think how our life and emotion become completely, totally, different. We don't fear about law, we don't fear about punishment. Then how that life goes? You don't care about guns. Somebody put a gun, somebody punish and put into jail. We don't care. We don't have fear. Then can you imagine that how our life goes? Our emotion would play. So many of this our life, we're walking because of fear, because of physical security. All the human activity, actually, if we think carefully, everything is motivated by fear. Consciously, unconsciously. You just imagine, I'm not just exaggerating, you just imagine. If anything that you are not doing is not motivated by fear, everything, from the emotional point of view, from external things. So basically, in all the psychologists, all these teachings, they say it's all to make sure that we are secure, to free from future dangers. So one point, it's necessary, and it's our survival, and it's source of everything. So if we see that, of course, that is beauty. That's beautiful. That's very beneficial. Who don't want to have that? If your future source of well-being if that becomes the source of your future well-being, why not we have that? Why we consider it as a beauty? And that is the general point of view. That one point. And then, I'm not going so much about these general things about this, but I'll try to emphasize on more on Buddhist point of view. And then fear also, in Buddhist point of view, fear is actually the everything, foundation for our enlightenment. Enlightenment, we have three categories of enlightenment. One is enlightenment, we have a different level in like say complete enlightenment and self-liberation. That is it. And then our ordinary enlightenment, from free from different chaos and different problems. So these are all born from fear. Like in Buddhist self-liberators, they only focus their self-liberation because of fear of 6 realms. Fear of borning into the lower realm like hungry ghosts or hell realm, and fear of born in the animal realm. And then they work for the self-liberation. And if Buddha's first discovery of the enlightenment come from fear, all his knowledge started discovering from the fear of what he has seen with his own eyes in that beautiful palace. His father was trying to protect from fear by putting him into the most luxurious palace with full of beautiful women and beautiful things to eat and beautiful clothes and make everything nice. But when he go outside, he saw all these human conditions. We call this 4 human conditions. This that everybody has to go with these stages. Doesn't matter whether we are rich, poor, doesn't matter. Everybody, there's no exception for president until to the homeless person. And for this, Buddha realized that if we have to all go through this process, do we have any solution for this? If this is a punishment for every individual, we cannot do anything about this for future or now, then we have to accept like our own death. And we have to accept, and if, instead of, they're getting worried, we have to accept and live with that. So in Buddhism, that is not the case. And Buddha found a solution to escape all those fears. Fear of, at that time Buddha was a very young, handsome princess. He's supposed not to be worried about those things. He first saw this sick person, second he saw the old person, aging person, and third he saw the dead person, very good, and the corpse he carried. He is not in that stage. It's generally speaking, he's a healthy man, but he see his future consequences and the future situations, because he know that all of us is going into those situations, those conditions. And then here, when we say Buddhist fear, and then fear, all of these fear are not meaningless or just a useless or just a miserable or just, and we categorize this into 2 things. And fear has many things, levels. Of course, many levels. I'm not talking about the intensity and at the moment of fear. I'm not talking about on that level. Level in terms of the aspects and the nature. So like, some feel like, we call this in Buddhist called healthy fear and unhealthy fear. Does it make sense? So healthy fears are those fears which help us to grow, to learn, to enlighten ourselves eventually, and then it's protect us in some point. It's like protection. So those are healthy fear. Like if you are drinking alcohol or smoking too much, if you know that in future you will suffering from lung cancer and dying from then, if you don't want to see that, that kind of fear helps you to deal with your own addictions, physical addictions or whatever. This will teach us. Otherwise, if you don't have any fear, you never get step, because you are so addicted or so you have a strong desire to do that. So fear helps you to tackle with this gradually. That's why even in the Buddhist teaching, number 1, Buddha says, please meditate on the suffering of human beings, and especially suffering of death. So he is not trying to scare us, but he is trying to realizing and help us to grow our understanding about that, and eventually it helps us to escape from those dangers. So that is called healthy fear. Very healthy, useful, necessary, spiritual. It's very necessary. Without fear, we have no any enlightenment. We never see enlightenment. We just stay in our house and watch TV, enjoy good food, and that's all. But because of fear, we need to prepare. And even if we don't believe in the enlightenment or life after death, at least time of death, we have no regret. We know exactly how to deal with this fear, and eventually we know how to pass this situation. That is called healthy fear. Now, unhealthy fear is the totally opposite, and the number 1 condition, it's never existed E-X-I-X-T, how exist, yeah. It never exists, it's just imaginary. And then sadly, that was most scary and most bothering emotion. It gets trapped in our mind and it makes you miserable, miserable, miserable and torturing. And unfortunately, we never realize that also in the time of, especially when people get depression because of the fear of death or fear of something. And even they realize and if they have all full information, they cannot come out. This mind was stuck with this. Keep struggling. As this happened to me a long time before. So I know exactly how it goes. Many of you may have those kind of experiences in life. So that was totally unhealthy. Why it's unhealthy? Number one, it's never exist. It's never help us to grow. Which imaginary, like, if especially like ghosts. I have this fear when I was young. I have fear of ghosts that I thought I would go walk in the dark room and then some ghost may catch me from the behind. So even I'm just imagining, so the whole panic is going there. It's nothing there actually. It's nothing. But why I'm getting right now? If I'm thinking back, I think I'm so scared of those days, But our age and our situation, our condition makes this, And as we grow, our unhealthy fear also build up in a different level. Different level here again, it's become more profound. You imagining many things like for fear, here like many things that even we can imagine ourselves that we are in that situation. Fear of flying, fear of this, fear of that, fear of this. So it's endless kind of fear. And worst case, what happens if we are not aware about right now, and not mindful about, and not aware about those emotions, then danger is it can become addiction. Then what happens is become addiction to our mind, and mind it become totally victim, and it's very difficult to overcome. And that is also not the only problem. The problem is then it started multiplying the other fears. What happened? And it's become, our mind become very narrow-minded, and we are not overcome with the, I don't know if this is the right word to use, the narrow-minded, because mind was become so narrow, and because we are just deep in that fear that what we are imagining, and then it started helping to believe in other fears, that consequences, other fears easily, very easily. Even that not happen, it could be like this, it could be like this, because projection started, because the capacity and the skill of projection was increasing. It keeps increasing, future projection. Projection is also not healthy, they are all unhealthy, and they become our fear. So the whole thing about our issue here is to check over any emotion which brings us unhealthy emotions, if in generally speaking. And then even the spiritual people, then unhealthy fear is not healthy at all in any level. They doesn't help us. Even fear of snakes, it doesn't help them to grow a good practitioner. It's just imaginary, and of course, you can escape from this, but especially those fear which have not exist, like fear of something that we imagining, this could be happen like this could be happen like that, and so that could be very disturbances, and also it's be a mental addiction. So we have to, number one, we have to recognize which are healthy fear and which are unhealthy fear. And then once we recognize, we can use those healthy fear for our progress in life itself. Because it teaches us to become a wiser person when we know the future consequences, because future consequences become our fear itself. So it teaches us many, and then our improvement and life quality is also become better when we are aware. Awareness comes when we know the consequences and future consequences. The future consequences become fear. So it builds up strength, wiseness, informative. Without them, we may not be so attentive or so aware, so mindful about our future consequences. And that's why this is good. So good to know both which is healthy fear and which unhealthy fear. And then second, healthy fear, unhealthy fear, if we don't know how to use them properly, then also they become, what happens? Basic fear that I'm saying, fear of a future danger, it protects us from those dangers, and it's good if we apply. What happened, the main problem of healthy fear become necessary, but problem here of healthy fear is when we exaggerate the situations and never, change our way of life, way of behavior, way of behaving in our daily life. Like the Buddhist says, if you have not fear about our future consequences, like taking a rebirth in low realms, whatever our physical or verbal or other action be extremely violent, and we are not ready to mindful about our actions. Like especially we have 10 non-virtue actions. 10 non-virtue actions are usually physical, verbally, or mentally, because they are the source of future consequences and future result. So if we don't have fear of them, we don't care, or we don't care about what we say in verb, we don't care about what we physically act. We may kill, because we don't know the consequences of that in future. So we should know how to use them properly, and then using them, and also not only using of course, if we reach in higher level mental training and we are good in our spiritual practice, it's okay. We can have that. Skill to use them. But ordinary person like me, we have challenges, and we cannot just transform or make them beneficial or useful, those emotions, especially like emotion like fear. What happens, our mind is not so weak to use them, like it's automatically we become a victim of them instead of using them. That's why in Buddhism, when the masters are so powerful, they have a spiritual realization and very, the high power, they can use the spirit, and they can make the spirit to walk for them. And they can use even the most aggressive spirit. They can walk them for them to help all the sentient beings instead of harming others. Same thing here. If our spiritual, the inner strength as skill, we can use these emotions. Seems to be our problem. We can use them in a constructive way by employing them to increasing our spiritual knowledge. So here, the increasing our knowledge, how many, like we say, reflecting on this, by number one, we have to balancing them and use on the right moment. Use on the right moment in balancing means we don't need to exaggerate. Like if we suppose, like give an example like fear of death. If fear of death, what happens? Usually its function is to scare you and try to escape that. That impossible. It's inevitable. No one can escape from the death. So, do we getting worried and depressed about the fear of death? No, we don't need to torture that. And we can, learn them and how to, actually, our psychological thinking and biologically, most of the fears, bottom line, how we create a fear totally because of our ignorance. Buddhists say fear comes from our deluded mind. Deluded mind is rooted in our ignorance. Ignorance because we don't know anything. What is happening in the next? What is happening in the future? So all this presumption and just imagining that this could be like this. Of course, we know that we're going to die and leave this body. That's all, and that's simple as that's all. Actually, that's healthy fear that we're supposed to help them to improve our spiritual attainment and eventually escape from the death, from the Buddhist point of view. Instead of that, what we do, using of that, we exaggerate the death. Oh, it's so scary, then you leave your family, then you will go into a very, the very horrible situation where you see your friends are like weeping and it's hard to, detach you. Many of them are cultural and social beliefs, and especially like in the Asians, we have not so much fear about this garlic and all those things, allergy, all this. We have a more superstitious beliefs and fears in Asia. Oh, if the cat walk this way, oh, today no good. Maybe bad spirits going around way because black cat was one day. So most of what I'm saying, exaggerations and labeling of these fears also depend on our cultural belief and cultural inhabitation, way of cultural interpretation in our life. But we make sure that our fears, whether they are healthy fear or unhealthy fear, we make sure that they are not manipulated by our mind, by exaggerating the consequences and exaggerating the situation. Like, as I mentioned, death is simple like sleeping. And then eventually leave this body and go in, whether there is life after death or not, that finish. So, our fear exaggerated by drawing many things which have never happened yet. And even we don't know they are really happening at that time or not. Actually, when in time of death, you only fear at that time, and that one by one you are busy on dissolving those gross form of consciousness and cellular consciousness, and fear is no more there actually. At that time, maybe some pain, you're just blinking your eyes and it's difficult to breathe, so you are focusing, your full attention is on your breathing, because breathing was so difficult, you try to breathe this. Actually, what happens, time of death, those fears never happens, never experience. Can you believe? Actually, yeah, absolutely. And you hit the tongue like that. At that time, do you fear of hitting here? No, you just, like what? Like, whole your mind is concentration on the impact of that, and the fear that we exaggerated in our past was never experienced that time. We exaggerate the moment that hit, let's say if I fall down there, then I hit my head, I'm exaggerating my fear of falling down, and then I may think that my head injury will be serious and might have a brain damage. Then the brain damage actually never at that time nobody knows, it happens. Even my brain is perfectly all right, but my fear started growing. And then I go to hospital, right? Doctor scan this, you have some brain damage. Then I thought that this brain damage could lead to the collision, blood clot, and then I may be paralyzed. And my fear of paralyzing. Then they have started some nerve. And then now I'm getting totally maybe paralyzed. And then eventually I'm fear of death. So one lead to another. If we exaggerate it. Of course, we have no strength or realization like Buddhist practitioner. Okay, let this happen. Live in this moment. Just live in this moment. We may say like that. It's difficult. But our way of thinking, what happens, unhealthy or healthy, whether it's healthy or unhealthy fear, disadvantage is we exaggerated them, and then it makes very big issue and big problem, and then we are struggling with that. So point here to pointed to remember every time was, I'm not going to exaggerate, I'm not going to listen you guys, no, never happened this before, if this happens, happens. Nobody can control. Even Buddha or Jesus come here, they will not cannot do anything. So why, who you are to worry about that? Keep reminding like that, help us to not exaggerating, make it intense. So this can apply anything in situation in our life, including fear of. Now you see all these fears, they are exaggeration and mental projection and mental imaginary consequences, or nothing, never happened yet. And those unavoidable or inevitable, we cannot do anything. In Buddhist point of view, we can avoid them eventually. Through the spiritual practice, we can avoid death, we can avoid the sickness, we can avoid old aging, we can avoid the lower birth, not only lower birth, even we can break the bondage of born again in the cyclic existence. So now, your choice is, you want to worry about those fear, or you want to find a solution for fear. Of course, we want a solution for fear. Then solution for fear, they have different beliefs, like Buddhism and all this. Because most of our religions, how this religion came into existence in this human world, or whatever we call, because of fear. We have fear, and then people have a fear about death, fear about past life, fear about our creation, fear about who am I, fear about where I come from. Then God has to be the God or the founder or those clever men have to do something. Don't worry, you are a creation of God, so you come from heaven. You are here enjoying, you have a full freedom. There's so many. That's actually all the religious belief. Everything has to do with the fear. Even without fear, we will never go to church or in the here. Right? So all this based on fear. Everything is based on fear. And even, over day-to-day life, we are just, our motivation, and even, just go into grocery stores, go into fear of poisoning, food poisoning, we check the expiry date of the object again and again. Really? This 2015? Before January? Okay, 3 months. Why? Because of fear. Fear of getting poisoned and die. That was good. I'm not complaining. That's good. But most important was make sure that our own fear make us victim and manipulated over this fear, and then we get all our peace of mind, everything stole by them, and the time that we have lived healthy, peacefully, become destroyed by those fears. How unfortunate, how sad we are, how stupid we are to become a victim of those fears, which have never happened, in general speaking. And then, from the Buddhist point of view, fear should be always reminded, and without fear we cannot find any solution or any higher realizations. These are the first stepping stone, you call this stepping stone of our spiritual progress. So Buddhists say, we have this practitioner called wandering yogis. You know what they do? They all go to different cemeteries. And we have a cemetery, not like this burying ground, but we have a cemetery called Scar Barrier Cemetery, where you have find a big rock, where you chop or cut all the crops and then give to the watcher of these birds. So they are supposed to have very, the landlords, we call the spirit landlords, all this very aggressive, very mean, all spirits are supposed to come there to capture this dead spirit and then make them sleep at some point. And so for this, then they have many wandering spirits all over before they find another rebirth or another form. That's in the Buddhist term. So what happens, they are helpless. They are so sad they didn't find any proper form, whether this is a human form or animal form, even they didn't find a form, proper form. They become wandering spirit and full of hunger, and the part of the hungry ghost. And always disturbing, and their motivation, their actions are all negative. Because of their own fear, then they try to protect their own fear, they protect the fear of human beings. Human beings are more superior and they have more energy, and so they have powerful light which really makes them scared. So they want to kill those human beings also. Of course, sometimes they can kill, but sometimes they cannot kill. Maybe I'm speaking so traditional. Otherwise, if I would go into so traditional, then the newcomer, what? What the point here is, so, okay, anyway, what they do, so those practitioners, they go there and then they have this drum and the trumpet made from the human bone, then they blow and then they call this all spirit, visualizing that all entire place is filled with the spirit. Eventually they can see the spirit, power of the spiritual realization. They can see, and then they offer the physical body, and come here, drink my blood, eat my flesh, and they take my bones, and so visualizing this. So this visualization is not just believing and throwing all this trying to loosen our self-grasping attitude. And we have this strong attachment for our physical body. And we spend so much money on this to preserving. And of course this no use. This all go into its natural elements. We know that. The process we can see with our own naked eyes when the time of our death. And so they say this is just elements which belong to Mother Earth, and all this solidity form are go into the dust, decay, and then mix with the earth, and air that I'm breathing is mixed with the air, and the liquid like my blood, whatever the pus, this all evaporated go into the liquid elements. Heat that I have here, it's go into the heat element, dissolve into the space when at time of death. So this physical body is nothing. These are just a temporary for my mind to use this in very conducive way to help my understanding. So when they're visualizing that this is nothing, this is a physical element, so I can use this to provide this for all those hungry spirit. They need this flesh, they eat all flesh, drink the flesh. So they do this. What happened then is losing the grip of the strong attachments on the self-grasping, especially in physical form. When they practice this, what happens? Fear becomes very protective. It teaches them to realize the solidity nature, false solidity nature of human existence in physical form. And then what happened? Totally they can overcome they don't need to die that time instantly, but they can overcome totally for dying. Because dying is the process of changing, in the Buddhist point of view, dying is the process of changing the physical form, another physical form from this very physical form. And the best analogy that you can give is just a hotel room. We are just gas. Our mind is just a temporary gas. And it's depend on our previous payments. How much we pay, we get some of us are very good, healthy, smart hotel rooms. Me, very small hotel rooms. And some of our hotel rooms have a lot of issues. Broken windows and broken doors and smelly, very stinky. They have a lot of bugs also inside. So what is like bugs? And if we pay too much and you have a very nice, especially nice hotel room, why are you getting worried? You just enjoy. Just enjoy. You don't waste your payments. Don't waste that. So that is how we actually, true practitioner, altitude of using this physical body was when you go to Hawaii, very luxurious hotel room, by paying a lot of money, you never waste a few minutes. You utilize all the facility, enjoying them, You don't complain those broken windows and doors. That is not your problem. That is their problem. They have to fix it. So whole idea in Buddhist practitioner, even this broke, as long as it's sustained, of course, as an individual, I'm not saying you should neglect your health, you should eat anything. I'm not saying this. Whole idea is do not get attached with this. Problem is when you get attached with this, then what happens? Mind becomes very confusing. Of course, mind, one point, it wants to release and get liberated. Freedom. One time, then you're thinking, oh, preserve this, worry about that, worry about that. So it's confused. Totally confused. Then what happens? Your wisdom and other mental quality cannot shine or cannot utilized. When you have too much worry about this, what happens if your intelligence to use this properly as a constructive or healthy way, you can use. Why? Because your intelligence was not enlightened intelligence or enlightened wisdom, then it's overshadowed with those negative emotions. Once negative emotions are activated, it doesn't matter what kind of, but all they're very strong. So here, the fear, what I'm saying here, when we are practitioner, they embrace the fear and learn them, close them, familiar with them. Why? Because fears come from unknown. We don't know what is happening, just presuming, just imaginary. And if imaginary, that is in the mental imaginary, right? So in the actual ground, if you go there and see there and sit with this, if like I'm a fear of hungry ghosts or this, call them and talk with them and share with them. Generally speaking, like if we have a fear of going into unknown place, especially when we don't know, let's say in the trail, in the very density jungle, go up in the mountain, we have no idea about a wild animal, we don't have a proper track of the trail, and we don't know who have been there, and full of fears, right? So what is our solution? We just study about the natural and geographical condition and other things that conditioning itself that we have fear. Study about whether there is a danger of wild animal, whether there is a proper trail which can lead to the top, and see is there any other animal which is life-threatening for us. And once we know, and especially when we have practically go there, and then we realize there is no any danger. Then our worry about fear before we started this journey was no use. So in our life, any fear, including our death, including our sickness, especially like cancer disease, like best way is just to put ourselves into that situation in real. Then you say, okay, if I'm next year 2017 something or something, if somebody I have diagnosis with this, emotionally how, of course medically don't worry, you can find all the possibilities, especially in this country you get all the possible treatment. But now how I'm going to deal with my emotionally when actually situation comes, then you can feel, like this will give us the information emotionally and psychologically. What happened is leave the imprint in our mind, brain, even if it's not happened. And then what happens, it gives a deeper understanding and a deeper insight into the consequences and into the future fear and situation. Like let's say if you keep reminding yourself, that's I was told by one doctor. He's a Buddhist practitioner and he himself a physical doctor, and he says many of these hospital workers, I don't know whether this is 100% true or not, those people who are dealing with the critical condition, emergency room, and nurses who have seen this long time and used to these things, when they actually happen to them, they are more calm, more peaceful, because they know every day they see this and this happening. And also they are mindful in occasionally that this is going to happen to me too one day. And then constantly they're giving us support, emotional support for them, some ways, some approach. So point here is, if they are not Buddhist practitioner, if just seeing them, reminding them, and it make them familiar with the situation and easy for them, then if you actually practice, then it's of course more beneficial. So what happened in some cultural, when we talk about this issue and talk about those things, then we don't want to listen. Even we try to escape this. Okay, don't talk about that. We are healthy. Benefit is not escaping the situation when actually it's not happened. A Buddhist says, cultivate it or practice when you are healthy. And that's why Buddhists say, practice when you are healthy. Consider that you are healthy emotionally or physically. If you are healthy, why are you wasting your whole energy and your strength for nothing, which you cannot carry nothing? Because 90% of our effort and energy we invest into our collecting a comfort of this life. Especially we make money for house and everything, right? So do this have us most fearful things, including over aging, including over sickness. Even you have a $1 billion house, if you are diagnosed with one of those illness, you can watch your house and get cured. No. So why are you wasting your whole energy worrying about future security of your house and wasting all your energy and your health? So fear teaches us in the life balance also. Because we become obsessed with the external resources. We forget many of those values. Because also these emotions are also playing their own roles. They're overtaking one emotion by another emotion. Desire overtakes the fear of future health. You're running up on money. So when you have this fear of, the desire for something, so why we have to cherish a fear which are healthy? Because it teaches us to balance our life and teach us to train our mind to be ready to tackle any consequences in future, any danger in future. Even it is like we said, if we have not this clear idea about the Buddhist concept, we may think it's stupid to say that escape from the death. Who can escape from the death? Escape from the death is not to controlling the mind and dying happily. The whole fear of death is emotionally, So emotionally, if you are happy while dying, then you are escaped from the death. It doesn't necessarily that you will never die or become an immoral person. But if your mind is trained in such a way that death is nothing, it is just a transition, and then realizing that the process of death is same like sleeping, and you are mindful about this, train about that, and then time of death, you just, so curious about your dying process that those yogis and practitioners, of course, they have this exciting. Exciting about a dying process was so exciting that instead of getting worried, you are so focused about this dying. So, like you will see or hear the story about those highly trained masters in Tibetan community, when they die, what they did? They will sit straight, leg they cross, and put these clothes, and then they meditate, started meditating. Peaceful, not about this. Starting peacefully, they're trying to concentrate on the death process. Eventually, when the time to leave the last breath, they will watch the attendants or the students and smile, and then they die. That was true escape from the death. Escaping the fear is psychological and mental, not the objective escape. And fear is external and subjective, it is not objective. And objective, fear, objective, we believe that exists from outside. Okay? Yeah, now this is a different way of fears and their function. Now, what I want to, okay, then if we have this fear, okay, we can use this and we make this useful and this makes beautiful, okay, that's fine. Then how we can, now what is the source of fear in Buddhism and how we can overcome? There's the final solution, that's the bottom line. You don't talk too much, give us a hint and tell us what is the solution of fear. What is the source of fear? If there is no source, there is no solution. Because it's almost like permanent. We cannot change anything for permanent things. Like it's impermanent. Fear is also. It's gradually, it's decrease in its own way. But Buddhist says whole solution and the source of fear is our delusion mind, deluded mind. Deluded mind is deluded with our pure mind with the different perceptions, which is imaginary perceptions, creating this and then make us scared of the future consequences and future danger. Simply that is deluded. And so where's the delusion come from? Ignorance. Ignorance, why? It's the root of ignorance. This is the root of delusion is all ignorance. So now how we can overcome? Simply just enlighten ourselves with the wisdom to enlighten from the confusion world or from the ignorant mind. So how the ignorant mind works for the confusion? Most of fears based on our ignorance on ourself. So self-grasping has a responsibility to create all those mental projections. You can imagine that, all fear come because I will be like this, I will be fear like this, I will be fears, all these least fears, all based on I. Me, I will have a garlic fear, I have a gold fear, I have a, oh my gosh, here, sleeping fear. I have a sleeping fear. I have learning fear, of course, this is relatable. I have star fear. I have fear of hell, of course, yeah. I have fear of symbolism. Yeah? I don't know. So these fears are I are entailed or linked with this I. So who is fearing? I is fearing. So I is fearing, then Buddhist says, you are totally ignorant on your own I, which was never exist on first point. I was just also imagination. And the fear that we experience, this is a very easy way to understand it, the best way to understand and fear in the illusion life or this ordinary life. I cannot tell you about emptiness and self-grasping, that's too far for those new ones, but best idea is we have a fear in dream, we have fear in reality in our life. Who experience this experience by mind? And when you are in the nightmare dreams, you have fear. Somebody is killing you, somebody is chasing you, somebody is beating you, somebody is mocking you, all kind of fears. You have every kind of these fears you can experience in a dream. And you are still struggling and experiencing it's real there. Now what is your solution? To wake up. When you wake up, you realize that all this imagination, all this is just a dream. Nothing exists, right? So taking this example, now in our real life, we are just become hallucinating with our idea of total existence of ourself. Self wants to free from all different fears, consequences, just self is imagination, imagining different things. And means we self is not living on the reality itself. It's just projecting different and live in the projecting world. So like it's projecting, what's projecting all these imaginary, scary things, and then just worry about that, like this. So we need to know, where does this projection come from? Projection comes from the self. So where does this self exist? Number one. So simple ways to find the self. Number one, who is fearing? Who is fear of all these different projections? Then we find the solution. Because if the self is not exist, then what is the point of getting worried about that? Like, we have illusion in Tibetan we have an illusion about when you go into long distant desert, you will see the big boiling water, like sea. We call mirage. In some, not in, here, because here a lot of this construction, a beautiful landscape and all this. In Tibet, barren land, flat, you will see in long distance, and when the travelers, when they're traveling in the hot suns, you will see mirage in the big plain ground, and then you will see that it's this big boiling sea. So they have fear of this. And really fear in the real life. And then when they go closer and closer, then they realize it's just a mirage, an illusion. The same thing in our life, we should realize that most of our fears are illusion, and it's mental projection based on I. So reduce our self-centered ego grasping attitude. That is the final solution. Because based on I, then I have this, could be this, I maybe have this danger, I may be this danger. So from the I, it's endless thoughts of this fear is imagining, producing, and sometimes it's uncontrollably. So you just keep quiet, and instead of just focus on the projection of that fear, just go inside and see yourself, where's me? Even you don't have not much deep understanding about the Buddhist emptiness, slowly reflect to yourself, where is the one who call myself I, and who is fearing for all these different emotions? And then finding from the physical point of view. Physical point of view, you're just reflecting on every part of cell. Sometimes you put yourself as a third person there, and witness this I, and let him to cut all this body part into millions of pieces and scattered all over there. And then look down and ask this guy, where's the I in physical? Then he will find it, these millions of pieces. Which one is the I? And we have some degree of understanding that physical form there is no excess of I. Now then this stupid I, all this I grasping, he say, no, your mind, your thought, all this spirit is the I. Then your third person also go up there. If that is the case, they have millions of emotions from every moment. You have different emotions, thoughts. Your spirit has a different continuation of momentary continuation. It's like, give me the example like river. When the river flows, actually we ask, this is a river? Yes, this is a Columbia River. This I saw last time. It's still big enough to sail a boat or something like that. Actually, that one we saw a long time. It's gone, right? We know that, but we still perceive, and we are still hallucinating with the idea of the existence or present existence of the Columbia River that we saw many years ago. All those rivers are gone. So the same thing, our mind is like river. It's like a continuation, but we cannot find the same thing on the same moment. And then we can ask, now which one is your mind? Which one is the one? Which is the one that you think that I? From those continuation. flow of this mind from morning to evening, from your childhood to until now, from many lifetimes to until now, this flow of this consciousness or mind traveling from one place to another, where is the I? You cannot pinpoint, you cannot say anything. You cannot say any particular moment, this is you. If you say that particular is you, then all of this same like that. Does that make sense? No, not so much. But don't get upset as you keep reflecting this. If I say, like, if the kindergarten children, if I say x into x minus d into z is equal to 41, x 41, what? You crazy? How could that be equal to this x is still like 41? Because they don't understand. That's the problem. So here whole point was, don't get upset when this kind of philosophy, it's not actually philosophy, it is practical. You have to bring this kind of emotional changes into daily life. When fear comes, you should be strong and try to reason that why I have this fear. Again, this, still this thief that steal my pieces come here in my door, in mind, and then we have to put different reason, logic to chase them out. That keeps your mind healthy, happy, all that we want.